couple of weeks ago, I went on my first silent meditation retreat. And in this video, I'm going to share with you some of the things that I learned. I've always felt that meditation is something that I would like to bring more into my life. Every time I've tried, I haven't been able to make the habit stick. I've had a number of friends who have done 7-day, week-long silent meditation retreats and had a lot of great things to say about a deeper sense of peace, some kind of breakthrough or a sense of clarity. And I ended up finding this one called the SPRINGWATER Center. It's about an hour outside of Rochester, New York. It costs somewhere between $700 and $1,000, but the prices are on the website. We had our meals provided for us. They were all vegetarian. There were a lot of fresh fruits, veggies, snacks. I never felt hungry, and there were only really 2 rules: respect the silence and do your daily work activity, which usually took about an hour. Mine was vacuuming, other people washed dishes or mopped floors, so that we were all contributing to this shared space we had together. Otherwise, there were 12 timed meditation sits, but you didn't have to do them. And that was really a philosophy started by the founder, Toni Packer. She was a German woman who was sort of grown through the Rochester Zen Center and had been almost ready to take over from Philip Kapleau, who was a giant in American Western Zen. But in the end, she wanted to make a lot of changes and broke away from the Rochester Zen Center and started the SPRINGWATER Center in the 1980s, led it for 30 years and died in 2013, and now her sort of next generation of teachers have gone on to continue the program. So without further ado, here are 7 lessons I learned from my 7-day silent meditation retreat. Lesson number 1, when everyone is silent, silence feels normal. One of the things that people say all the time is, oh my God, you are going on a silent retreat.
Hey, how was the meditation retreat?
Isn't it gonna be weird to not talk for so long? And trust me, I'm a total extrovert. I love people. I love talking to people. But the truth is, we talk in part because socially it's accepted and it's expected that we talk to people when we come across them. But when everyone else is not talking, it doesn't feel weird to not talk. It feels normal because no one else is talking. And what you realize is that there's a ton of small talk and just chit chat. Hey, how's it going? What did you think of the weather tonight? And what did you think of the carrots? Stuff that doesn't really matter. And when you don't have to speak and when everyone's not speaking, you stop engaging with those thoughts and you can spend more time reflecting inward. And it's actually quite peaceful to sit and eat with other people and no one's saying anything because no one's expecting you to say anything. There were, of course, ways that we could communicate sometimes when you needed to. Hey, I need to go over here, or I need to do this, and you would just kind of gesture, or you would scribble something down on a piece of paper if you had a specific question. There was a system where you could write notes for people and write their name, and you'd write the note and you'd fold it up and pin it to a corkboard so that they could see that they had a note written for them. And there was a little bit of a pen pal thing going on, but that didn't require speaking. There wasn't like no talking. There were these group dialogues every other day where you would gather in a circle and there'd be a facilitated conversation led by the teacher, the guide, Richard. And that kind of pent up the fact that you hadn't been talking for so long, kind of like built up, almost a lot more thoughts and ideas, and also you were listening to what other people were saying. It was designed to kind of be inquisitive and thoughtful. And the truth is, with a big group, you're not actually saying that much. So there was a little bit of talking, kind of helped get that itch out if you really needed to. And there were meetings with the teacher where you spoke. So it's not like you were completely silent, but you were pretty much not talking for almost all of your waking hours. Lesson number 2, we are more than the voices in our head. One of the things that you realize when you stop talking is all the different voices and comments and commentary that is running in your head kind of all the time. For me, I found that I would sing random song lyrics. So I remember singing Bills, Bills, Bills song by Destiny's Child. I also remember this random EDM song called Dear Life by Danik. And it was just sort of interesting to notice that your brain really kind of does a lot of things on autopilot, or what they now call the default mode network, where you're just kind of like randomly active, right? There's no such thing as brain off, truly. So your brain is kind of always active. I remember one participant, his name was Rob, and he said something about how he counted on a 60-minute walk 48 voices, separate voices, like the voice of his mom, the voice of a patient, the voice of his brother, different people in his life and the different voices. And sometimes you'd be like, oh, that was me. And other times he's like, that's not me. And the truth is we are all of these voices, and we are more than just those voices. We're sort of uncapturable through just simply saying like, hey, I'm this and I'm not this. Part of what I think meditation does is help you realize that you're just sort of like an entity that holds a lot of things, and things are coming into it and coming out of it. You're not a fixed, rigid object. You're like a being, right? That's like alive and changing. And when you see yourself that way, then it's easier to kind of break out of certain thinking patterns, because you get trapped. It's very hard to define who you are because there's just so much going on.
Who am I? Who am I?
3. Questions are more important than answers. The theme or the focus of this Springwater Center is meditative inquiry. That is the name of the style, if you will, of meditation that Tony Packer, the founder, had created. And it's all about asking questions. What do I mean? Asking questions like, what is present right now? What am I noticing? What is alive for me in this moment? Meaning, what thoughts come to mind? What's interesting to you, whether it's the things around you, the things that you're eating, any sensations that are coming up in your body. And so the focus of the retreat was really to help you observe the different questions you have for yourself and keep asking questions. Don't be satisfied with the answers.
Oh, well, I feel cold.
No. Well, what else do I feel besides cold?
Well, I feel a little tired, a little hungry, or I'm thinking about something that happened to me a while ago.
And the point isn't, oh, then let's go into that and let's diagnose that thought, but let's notice more details about that thought. Or, does your stomach get clenched up when you think about that thought? Just keep collecting information about the world around you and like your internal being. And that this was the style of meditation, in that when we ask questions and just sort of focus on that, the anxiety can kind of go away, or the uncomfortable feelings can kind of go away, because you're not focused on them. You're focused on asking more questions and observing what comes up. The 4th lesson is that we should all touch grass every day. I know this may seem super obvious, but the Springwater Center is located on what used to be a moderately sized farm, 220 acres. So there were meadows, there were fields. We were listening to just like bird song in the morning, throughout the day. Like if you played this as a soundtrack for a movie set location, people would say it's unrealistic. I learned over time that we had chickadees, goldfinches, red-winged blackbirds, crows, so many different types of birds. There are several others I don't even remember the names of, but it really created this symphony that was it was very calming. It was very peaceful, and it created things to listen to, right? Like things to notice and observe. And the way that the meditation room was set up, you could kind of like look out and gaze into the fields, see the birds, see the wind kind of swaying the trees and the branches, and then you could walk around. And so a lot of people, what they did is they would do some of the meditation sits, and then they would go and walk through nature, and that would sort of be their meditation. There were waterfalls, there were forests. So the point is, this is a beautiful place and you should go check it out, but also that you don't have to go super far away to get to this place. You can just find a park or find somewhere in nature that's closer to you, or grow plants, grow your own garden. And that there is this really healing property of nature that you really have to be there and immerse yourself in it to experience. So we make fun of touching grass, but touching grass is valid. The 5th lesson is that meditation is about helping you get better at noticing. So with all those questions, and you start to ask questions about what's going on around you, you start to notice things, which means you become aware of what's around you, aware of the world. And that is what makes it possible to live in the present. We often talk about living in the present, but there's stuff on my phone and there's other things going on. Part of it is that we're unable to sort of bring our attention to the present moment because we're bored of it, and we don't realize how exciting the present moment can be. And so some people would think of meditation as a way of building concentration. And it's true that you need to strengthen your concentration to become better at meditating or meditative inquiry. And so some of the breath work and some of the meditation sitting I was doing was around counting. Counting is a traditional way, counting the breath, coming back to the breath is a way of building your ability to concentrate and stay focused on one activity. But the other type of meditation I was doing, the sitting, was around the inquiry and the awareness and the noticing. I had this breakthrough on Thursday when I was telling my teacher, I was saying, look, I came to this retreat because I've meditated in the past, and it's hard to say if anything is improving or it's better. When I work out, I can feel better in the moment. I can feel better later. When I hang out with friends, I also feel that way. Maybe some things I don't like doing in the moment, like household chores or certain things at work, but I enjoy the results. And with meditation, I'm not noticing a difference. And then I said, well, but maybe it's because I'm bad at noticing. And so I can't notice that I'm getting better at noticing right away. And he just started laughing and said, I think you may be onto something there. And so part of my renewed commitment to meditation is this recognition that I am easily, I don't want to say distracted, but this is a skill that I can improve on. And several times during our talk, he'd be like, you might want to write that down. And I didn't have a pen or anything on me, so I thought, I guess he means when I go back to my room. But finally, he gestured over, and there was a piece of paper and a pencil on this countertop that was right next to me, and I never even noticed it. So it just really underscored the fact that noticing is a skill that I can develop and improve, and that's meaningful and valuable to me. So number 6 is try pairing meditation with things like walking and writing. One of the things I really got out of this retreat was this idea that meditation doesn't have to be just sitting on a cushion cross-legged with your eyes closed. You could have your eyes open if you wanted to. You could sit in a chair. You could kind of be propped up in different ways and in different positions to kind of relieve back pain or knee pain. Our teacher, Richard, encouraged us. There were these lounge chairs, these lazy boys, and it was just so awesome to think hey, just go, prop your feet up and you can meditate like that too. Be comfortable. There's nothing wrong with being comfortable. If you get too comfortable, sometimes you might fall asleep, so mix it up. You could do standing meditation or you can even do slow walking. That kind of helps you notice every footstep, and then pairing that with other things. So in between every 25 minutes sitting meditation, there was a 7-minute walking period, and that kind of helped you get your legs moving, get your blood flowing, but it was also meditative. You could stay present while you were just walking. It was still silent. And then what I was doing, I was reading some Natalie Goldberg and writing down the bones and some of these workshops that she teaches on writing, where she would have people sit for a little bit, 10 minutes, and then she would have them free write. And this, I kid you not, is how I finally understood how morning pages and free writing works. She always talks about keeping the pen moving, keep moving, and doing that, kind of let your brain go loose, especially after meditating, where you're really not caught up in something. You're really just letting whatever thought pops into your head, just writing it down. It's almost a meditation in and of itself. And sometimes I got into free association, word association, and just kind of pairing words together, and it got weird, but then it would get poetic, and then it would get interesting and go into a new topic. So I did a lot of free writing and journaling during this time, and I found that really fruitful. So I'm actually going to be working on a product that's sit and scribble, sitting and then writing and doing prompts. Anyway, so mix up your meditation, try that out. And finally, the 7th lesson for you is, if you are going to do a silent retreat, find one that works for you. I really loved the philosophy and the attitude of SPRINGWATER Center. The fact that the founder, Tony, had been we want to dismantle all the rigidity and the hierarchy of the Zen practice and really sort of strip it down to its barest bone parts, make everything optional and voluntary, because, that's how you can develop, and you don't need to have this sort of rigorous, disciplined process to become a more aware, more alive person. But one of the other members who were there who sort of spoke at the end said that she had previously done a more rigid meditation program, and she actually struggled with this one a lot, because with the rigid one, there was a schedule, there was a set of times, and you had to be there. So you really didn't have to think. You really just said, okay, I'm sitting because that's what this is supposed to be. That's supposed to be sitting. Whereas here, you could sit or you could not, which in my opinion meant that you had to be aware of yourself and notice what you were drawn to, what you felt would make sense. But it is a little bit more involved than just saying, well, no thinking, just doing. So if you do research, realize that silent meditation meditation retreats aren't all the same, and do research to figure out the type that you think might make sense for you. I obviously love Springwater Center, but maybe you would prefer something more rigid if you are just kind of getting started and you want to make sure you're like doing it right. So that about wraps up what I learned from this meditation retreat. One of the things I will say is that I really did learn to concentrate better. I can tell because I have this tool called the Muse, which actually like reads your brain waves, and I can see from the data that I'm able to stay calm and have less and active sort of brain wave patterns when I'm trying to meditate with the device on. And so even though that's not the point of meditation to do it right, it is nice to know that it's not just sort of like a placebo effect. Of course, I spent a week there. I must feel better, I must be better, but this device doesn't know whether or not I went on a retreat, and I can see in the data that I have improved my concentration. And that is after about 30 hours of meditating. So you can either meditate an hour a day for 30 days, or you could go on one of these retreats and get the same amount of time. In any case, if you are interested in this topic, you might enjoy my video on the 12-hour walk, a different kind of challenge, but one that is interesting as well, or my video on ADHD 2.0 and other ways that you can build your concentration if you are someone who struggles with ADHD or ADHD-like symptoms. Thanks so much, and I will see you in the next video.